Hello everyone, this is Greg Giglio, principal at Homestead High School, and coming to you today for our weekly video, as I do every week from a new location. This is our cafeteria kitchen. So I don't know if most of you get to get this kind of view from being around the campus, but this is it's only about 4 or 5 years old now, but one of our state-of-the-art kitchens here where we prepare all the food. And again, right now our cafeteria ladies are doing all the work on the weekly food service, and so I thought I'd showcase their area today. So let's go ahead and share my screen so you can see what we're doing here. Let me put this in presentation mode. All right, so as I said, today is November 13th, lucky Friday the 13th. So hope your day is going well for you. But here is the numbers this week for our survey. So we got 12 responses. We've been doing this for about 4 weeks now, and we've got a total of 69 different responses. So like I've said before, we don't have a whole lot of people coming in, and so this is not a representative survey of I think, how everyone is feeling, just sort of a sampling. Of those 12 responses, 5 of people rated us between 1 and 5, and 7 people rated us between 6 and 10. And so that averages out to a 5.5, sort of a little bit lower than where we've been before. Again, you can see our previous scores: a 6.4, a 6.05, and a 7.05. So again, not scientific, but at least giving you kind of a sense here. Definitely you'll see as we're going through here, there's a definite split. People are split on some of the same things. One person sees something good, another person sees something bad. So again, you take from it what you wish, just kind of giving you that and going on some information here. So when we ask the question, you know, why did you give us that rating? What I'm actually seeing is that there's definitely a correlation between how you answer that question and how you answer what do you value here at Homestead and what do you think is lacking. So I've kind of combined that all into one here. But and if you've been watching our videos, these will be no surprises to you, but hopefully you will see kind of what people are enjoying and what people feel like needs to be better. In terms of those who are valuing what's going on at Homestead, they feel much safer being at home. They think that the teachers and staff are really doing their best in a no-win situation. They appreciate the flexibility and support of our staff, and they're really appreciative of the responsiveness and timeliness of responses back to them. Those who maybe think that there are things lacking here are saying that they're tired of remote learning, and I think all of us can say we're tired of remote learning. There's not enough feedback, or people are slow to grade, teachers are slow to get some grading out. There's not enough teaching and learning going on. But there's a big workload, and I'll go into that also here in a little bit, and not enough flexibility. So again, kind of the opposing sides of the same coin here. I'm going to go into some of the questions because we had some really good ones and might be helpful for others here. So person asked their student has been trying to sign up for an ACT test, and it keeps getting canceled, and wondering if either Homestead or FUHSD is going to be doing one anytime soon. Homestead is not hosting one. We haven't planned to host one. We actually haven't ever hosted one in my time here, but Fremont High School is definitely hosting one. They actually two. They have one on December 12th, and the other one on February 6th. To sign up for those, you need to go to act.org and follow the normal procedures, and hopefully there's still space in there. I know, again, it's been pretty busy trying to get seats, or trying to get to those seats before they're filled. There are a lot of places where they're not able to do the testing, so people are coming from different districts and trying to get that. So again, good luck with that. act.org to see if you can get into either the December or February administrations of the ACT. Question about prom. Will seniors have a prom this year, or are we looking at alternatives? Typically a prom is later in the year. It's in April or May. It's towards the end. So it's still a little bit early right now, because obviously if we had to hold it right now, we wouldn't be able to hold it. We don't have the ability to do that. But we don't know what the restrictions are going to be like then, or if there'll be any restrictions at that point. Or whether at that point there'll be a vaccine, right? And so April is sort of a date that folks are saying vaccine might be possible. So who knows at this point? So we're not ruling it out at this point. But if we're able to have that prom, we absolutely will, because we don't want to go 2 years in a row having to cancel that. But one of the things from last year, since we did have sites reserved, we were able to roll over our deposits to this year. So we do have sites saved already and reserved for the prom should it happen. So again, should we get the green light, we're going to go ahead and do that. We already have the sites picked out and reserved. The ASB, our ASB leadership, that's Associated Student Body, that's our student council. They will be discussing ideas about this come next semester as we know a little bit more. Really what they're trying to focus on right now is the homecoming. If everything keeps moving forward like we think it is, then we could be having football season here by December, end of December, into January, and we're looking to host a homecoming. We did have to cancel our winter formal, which is normally at the end of the first semester. So that's definitely been canceled, but we're trying to see if we can't do something for homecoming. And then after that, we'll be definitely setting our sights on proms. This one was a specific question to a parent whose student is on an IEP. And for those of you who don't know what those initials are, it's an individualized education plan. And these are students who are on special education because they have a learning disability. The student had, for this person, the student has an IEP, but they're concerned about the workload. It's just too heavy, too much homework, that kind of thing. So as this parent probably knows, but maybe others don't, there are case managers that are connected to each student. So your best bet would be to start with that case manager to see what kind of help and support they can do. Maybe they have to schedule an IEP meeting. Maybe they just need to talk to some specific teachers. You can also contact Janice Swearingen. She is our lead resource teacher, which is the term we use for like department lead for the resource department or special ed department. So she can also help in situations where you might need a little more support. If this tends to be just one particular class, I would suggest that you contact that teacher directly and ask and see, you know, what's going on and what can be done in terms of in regard to the IEP. And for anybody else out there who is maybe struggling at this point where they're feeling, you know, the workload's too much, again, contacting the teacher is also good for you. But some other resources I've mentioned before, but just to try and get it out there, your guidance counselors are a really good resource for this. They can help generate some conversations between the student and the teacher. They can help support. They can help build some some time management skills or even some organizational things for your student. So checking in with the counselor is a good idea. Athena is another really good idea. That is our online tutoring program. That is actually designed by a Homestead student, former Homestead student, and it's run with student tutors from Homestead. Your student can send in a question, say, I need some help on this subject or this question, and they'll get an email back and some contact back from a tutor. So it's a great source. We have seen an increase of people using it this semester. We have capacity to keep using more, so feel free to jump on Athena. That's on our website. Go into the student portal, click on that link, and that'll take you right to their website. It's a very cool and easy to use website. So going back to the subject of homework, this does come up every survey. So a little background first. I know that there's the big debate about whether homework is useful or not useful. The reason that teachers assign homework is there's usually two sort of reasons. One is for practice. That you don't get better if you don't practice. If you learn something, you need to do it over and over and over again before you really perfect it. So sometimes it is simply a matter of practicing and just getting the muscle memory or the brain memory to help you with that. Other times it's to prepare or in preparation of something, like maybe you're introducing some work, maybe you're reviewing some work, maybe you're trying to expand some work. So those are generally the types of categories that homework falls under. Most of it's usually practice. And what's really important, and maybe less discussed in terms of the importance of homework, is that pacing of the lessons really depends on homework. If there's no homework, for instance, the pacing slows down, right? Because you can't practice, you have to give time to practice in the class. I was an English teacher, and so most of the time when I assigned homework, it was to read, say, chapter 1 of To Kill a Mockingbird. Otherwise, we'd have to read it in class and then take time after that to discuss it. But if the students could read it at night and then come in ready or prepared to talk about it the next day, we could then go deeper into it. Or the same thing would happen with, say, math or science. If students aren't reading a chapter and getting some introductory information, or if they're not practicing the problems, they're going to have to do those things in class, which then significantly slows down the pace. And we're already a little concerned about the pace because we do have less instructional time with the students. We have more than we did in the spring, but less than we do in person. So that's why there's this sort of push me, pull me. And it is trying to find that sweet spot. And just to let you know, we're not ignoring this fact. We understand that homework has been a stressor for kids. It's actually always a stressor for kids. Whenever we've done surveys in the past, homework tends to be the #1 stressor at school. And so we get that. And so we are always trying to look at it and trying to figure out how to make it better, how to make it more approachable, how to give more supports. And so we have had conversations about this, especially this year. It's been topics at our department lead meetings. Those are the people who run the departments, and we sit there and influence what goes on within the team. So we definitely have had conversations there. The course-alike team, so all the algebra teachers or all the US history teachers get together and they talk about it. We've also been talking about it in our guidance and counseling department. So there's a lot of places we've been talking about it and trying to see where we can adjust. And to be honest, there are teachers and our teams that have made some adjustments. There are people that have cut things down or changed things up. I don't have a comprehensive list to go through all that right here, but I can tell you not every single teacher, not every single course has done it, but there have been some adjustments to understand that we see the stress, we're trying to deal with it. One of the things that we will be working on is our leadership, the ASB leadership kids. They have a wellness group. They actually administered a survey to students, and about 250 kids responded to the survey, and it was about homework load and it was about stress. And I will be helping those students present that to our department leads on Monday as a means of a conversation and as a way to also continue to address the situations going on. So another question that came up is we are talking about, there's a question here about why no retakes in geometry. There's my assistant principal, Mr. Dong, walking through the background of my shop. Anyway, so the question was why no retakes in geometry enriched? And again, this would be one of those times where you could definitely reach out to the teacher and ask. There was only one geometry enriched teacher, and that's Mr. Guevara, so I reached out and asked. And just a little bit of background on this first. So teachers and teams are the ones who do have the final say on grading. That is something that is completely within their purview and is protected by the education code. Teachers are the ones who control the type and format of grading. I can't control that as the principal. Now, we do encourage, we do give trainings, we do give, things for teachers to think about. We do encourage redemption, and redemption has a lot of different opportunities, right? Redemption could be retaking of a test, replacement of a test, resubmitting, right? Those different kinds of things. So in this case, Geometry Rich does not offer a retake. However, what Mr. Guevara does is he'll use the final exam to replace the lowest test score from the semester, right? So it's a replacement redemption kind of thing. He's also, when he gets down to it, he takes the quizzes, he drops the lowest three scores, and then factors that into the overall grade. And so again, this is a place where, again, we might recognize that, students may have a bad day, or maybe that was just a difficult test for them, or something was going on. And so it's a chance at actually saying, okay, that one test isn't going to completely ruin your year. But if you have 3 or 4 tests like that, then that tells us something else, right? So in this particular case, the teacher does not offer a retake, but he does offer some forms of redemption in terms of replacing other test scores. And again, what I would encourage is, if you're wondering about the retest or retake policy of your students' teachers, look at the green sheets. It should be on Schoology. If you can't find it on Schoology, you can always email me and I will email it to you, because I have all of them in my guidance department. Or you can also just have your student kind of talk to the teacher and say, okay, what can I do to work on this? I wouldn't wait too much longer. We've only got about 6 weeks left in the semester, so the earlier you do that, the better. But that's the best place to find out where and how the retakes or redemption policy goes. There were a couple people who responded to some of my earlier answers from last week and took me to task a little bit, so I'm going to try and get a chance to redeem myself and answer these a little bit maybe more thoroughly or more specifically to what they were asking for. So one particular parent said, my answer about differentiation missed the mark. And so what that was, there was a question last week asking about why there aren't any options in the 9th or 10th grade at the English, science, and history levels for students like there are in the math levels, that kind of thing. Their specific concern this time was talking about basically putting motivated and unmotivated students together, or students who maybe are a little more into the subject in one class versus kids who aren't into the subject in another. And what our common sense kind of tries to tell us is like, well, if you have a bunch of motivated kids, they're going to do better working together than if they're paired with kids who maybe aren't as motivated or maybe aren't as high skilled. And to be honest, data is showing the exact opposite. When there are tests that have been done on putting homogeneous groups of kids together, so those who were very similar, versus heterogeneous, the heterogeneous kids always do better. The lower kids and the higher kids. And so, that's one of the things that we look at when we do sort of these foundational courses. Trying to teach everybody a foundation on which they can build, but also because kind of this format actually works well for everybody in there. And don't just take my word for it. You can look up the work of Dr. Jo Boaler. She's at Stanford University. She's a professor of mathematics education. She has several books out there. She's got a website called UCube, and there's a lot of great resources on there. But again, we kind of take some of the philosophy from there. So the argument of, putting all like-minded students together is beneficial, it actually, data doesn't show that. So again, maybe that might help a little bit explain as well too. But we don't really allow those, what's the word I'm looking for, differentiation in higher level courses until later on. Another question, comes up a few times, is the idea about when will kids go back to school? So, I've been mentioning that our district made the decision to stay through the first semester. It's actually also now been extended into the first 6 weeks of the second semester. And so a lot of people are asking us, well, we hear other districts are doing this, they're opening up, they're doing hybrids. Why won't Homestead or Fremont Union High School District look at that? So again, to try to sort of explain that we can't open up normally. We can't just bring every kid back and do school like normal. That's an impossibility at this particular point. Restrictions and guidelines won't allow it. What is happening is that some districts are K through 12. So they are allowed to bring back some of their students in the elementary levels, right? They have small groups of kids that don't move around with one teacher, stay with that teacher all day. Some of those schools are opening up that way. Middle schools and high schools are having a tougher time at it. So they're not really opening up, but they might be bringing students back little by little. And that's what we're starting to do. We're starting to bring kids back in some little, or looking to bring kids back in some little pods so they can get some help and support. But there are also some private schools out there that have gone in for waivers and are able to bring some kids back. But if you have a small private school, you might be able to bring back small groups of kids and you're still bringing back a significant portion of your group. But they're not really truly doing a hybrid. When we're talking about hybrid, that's a whole different animal. So again, remote is when you're all on remote learning, you're doing it all by distance. In-person means everybody's here on campus all the time. Hybrid means a combination of the two of those. And I meet actually just about every other week with the principals from the surrounding high schools, not just in our district, but in our athletic league. So Mountain View, Los Altos, Los Gatos, Milpitas, Santa Clara, Wilcox. We get together and we talk about what we're doing. And there are several districts like Palo Alto and Saratoga who are looking at hybrid models for classes and where they're really hitting some roadblocks. And they're thinking about it, but it's really looking to be preventative in that really when you start to do a hybrid, it reduces the amount of instruction that goes on per week. So right now in remote learning, your kid sees the teacher twice a week for 90 minutes each, so it's 180 minutes. In a hybrid, they're only going to be in front of that teacher for 90 minutes. The other 90 minutes, they're going to be at home working asynchronously. So right there, that pacing has all of a sudden slowed down, and you're not getting as much time. Even though you are getting some face-to-face time with the teacher, you're actually cutting down the instructional time that's going on. And in the concept of a hybrid, you take the first half of the alphabet, you say, okay, you guys come on Monday, Tuesday. The second half of the alphabet stays home on those days, and then you flip that. The second half of the alphabet comes home or comes to Homestead on those Thursday, Fridays. The other staff stays home. And that sounds great on paper, but when you start to actually split it up, it doesn't work so well. So when I took a look at my daughter's schedule, for instance, she's in Algebra 2. And so Algebra 2, if I split that class in half, it's pretty equal in terms of how many people are A through M or N through Z. But because it's Algebra 2, there are kids from freshmen to seniors in that class. So that means they're going to 4 different levels of English. And when I counted up, I think I counted up something like 12 different English teachers that those kids go to. Right? So you can start to see it starts to get pretty murky after that, in that I might be able to have a perfectly split English class, but I might have another class that's bigger or smaller or too small to actually be able to get half the class in there. And so what ends up happening in those cases, and this is what some of the teachers, some of the principals in the other districts are facing, is that they have to start making changes to the master schedule, which means you might actually have to change classes. I mean, the kids you've been working with, the teacher you've gotten to know, you might have to go to a different class to even it out. And that doesn't actually sound like a very academically sound reason to move a kid, right? Just because like, oh, I need to even this out. That's a big to-do, right? We've already spent time getting to know each other and getting used to those systems. It would be a totally different system. In some districts, they're even having to have kids change sites. So they're going from this site to that site in order to balance out the numbers. That too also doesn't sound like a good thing. The other issue is that some of these schools are now starting to face that when they're coming back, or if they're coming back, there are going to be students and staff members that have pre-existing health conditions and cannot return to the classes. So that's going to throw another wrench into it. Like if a teacher can't come back again, they may have to be assigned to a different place, and so your student's going to get another teacher, or they may have to start switching kids in and out. Again, that starts to get a little bit problematic. So on paper, a hybrid sounds great. And again, I'll be honest, in the beginning of all this, I was thinking a hybrid would sound great too. The more you dig into it, the more I'm seeing my colleagues dig into it across the county. They're not liking it, and it's really getting to be problematic, and it's causing some of these issues. Now, it doesn't mean that we may not still be going to it, but right now it doesn't seem to be making sense compared to the remote learning, which is what people are used to. It gives you more instructional time. It's not perfect. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say I love it and I think it's what we should be doing all the time, because I would rather be in person, but it's still not safe to be in person. The other question that people bring up is this idea of, the mental health of kids on remote learning is being affected, and that's true. This is a very stressful time right now. That there's all the stuff that's going on in the world. There is the stuff that's directly related to remote learning. And so we have indeed seen an increase of requests and referrals for students, so that is a concerning thing to us. We are trying to support our students as best we can. We do know that the pandemic fatigue is real. However, we're also getting pieces of information like this. This was a news article that came out of Reuters just the other day, saying that a study out of London shows that 1 in 5 COVID patients are developing mental illness within 90 days after contracting the disease. And so there are also mental health issues happening to people who are catching the disease. And so again, the more you come to school, the more you open up, the more likely you are to get the disease, and you could end up with anxiety, depression, as this article goes on to talk about, which are long lasting even after COVID goes away. So this is, again, one of those situations where there really is no good answer. There could be mental health issues on either side, and so we are having to make some decisions about which way do we want to go. Right now, the health and safety of students is important to us. It's the most important, and we're still seeing that the safest way to deal with this situation is by being on remote learning. Again, I want to be back just as much as the next person wants to be back, but we do have to do so safely. Here's another one of those responses that said, again, they didn't really appreciate or like the response I gave in terms of an answer for Schoology. The particular statement was it was longer than this, but I've pared it down. The school does not seem to take feedback from parents and students to improve difficult problems, especially when it regards to Schoology. The question last week was about, are you taking the feedback we're giving you and giving it to Schoology? And I gave an answer which I guess wasn't thorough enough, so I'm going to try and take a second stab at it here, and this will be my shot at retaking and redemption, so hopefully it's successful here. We do, when there's a problem or issue with Schoology, staff members, students, and parents can send in a help ticket to Schoology directly. And then we actually get to see those. So not me particularly, but our tech team, our tech advisors will see those, and we'll go through those and see what they can fix on this end, as well as how they can work with Schoology on that end. There is a weekly review of these high priority tickets. So the things that we keep seeing over and over again are things that are a major issue. That goes to our Schoology customer success manager. And then there's a discussion with that and our tech teams about, okay, do you understand what the problem is? Do we need to fix it on our end? Or do you need to fix it on yours? So we have a constant conversation about some of these highly critical areas. We've also had multiple meetings with the Schoology support systems themselves for support work, tech team themselves, sharing sort of what we used to do here, like a rosebud thorn, what's working, what's not working, some ideas we might have, and so that they can get to understand what our experience has been as a customer. We then turn around and provide some weekly training and tips for teachers. These weekly training and tips are stored on Schoology, so teachers can go access them at any time. If they missed that particular workshop or didn't see that email, they can always go back in and get it later if it's something they're looking for. And again, Schoology is interested in hearing from us, and they want to make product improvements. So it is part of the give and take feedback. Now, I do want to point out though, if you have a belief that, if we have a concern, the concern goes, you present that to Schoology that they're immediately going to fix it, I want to make sure I disavow you of that understanding, because that is not how this works. Schoology is a pretty big company. They have 15 million students that are logging on daily while doing online learning right now. They have 2,000 districts that they serve, including LA Unified, which is the biggest in our state. And there are 3 states, Texas, Alabama, and South Carolina, who use Schoology for all of their K-12 districts. So that you can see it's a pretty significant number there. So Homestead High School having a particular issue or idea isn't going to go and change everything for Schoology. If it's an issue that's affecting everybody, then that's something that they'll take into consideration, or they may look for ways to eventually fix it. But I want to make sure people understand that, like, we're not their only clients, and they are serving and have been successfully serving people. Now, there are things that we have as issues. There are things that we definitely would like to fix, but there were things we'd like to fix with Schoology too, or with Schooloo. And so, you know, we worked with them until we decided we needed something different and better. And so, in a way, there's a lot of things better about Schoology, but yeah, there's still some issues, and we're still working them through. But I hope by kind of going back to this answer, you understand that we are taking this seriously. We are giving the information back. There are give and take going back. But in the end, you know, there are the simple business mechanics that they have to go through. And you know, I'm not here. I'm not a paid spokesperson for Schoology, but you know, this is kind of the reality that we're dealing with. So while there is some frustration, we know that there is an open feedback loop that's going on. So your information that is getting passed along and is getting considered by Schoology. That brings us to our important dates and information. And so again, talking about grades, our second grading period is going to be ending here, and you'll be able to see those grades on IC at the end of the day on Monday, November 16th. So keep an eye out for those. There is also a PTSA general meeting. It's the Impact Teen Driving Workshop on November 18th. So again, please check that out on our PTSA page on our website. There's a couple of webinars for students who might be interested in either the middle college or the College Now program. Those are on the 18th and 19th respectively. Notice there's a little different time there. The middle college webinar is at 3 p.m. The College Now webinar is the next day at 3:30. So just if you're interested in both of those, make sure you note that time, but you can find that on our guidance department website page. Also, obviously, Thanksgiving is coming up, and so November 25th is a holiday schedule. It is still an asynchronous day, but it's organized just a little bit differently. So, you know, our website has that listed already if you want to take a look at that. And then there is no school on the 26th and 27th. The PSAT registration is still open until the 20th. And coming up, importantly here, it seems like it's early in the year, but senior portraits, those are due coming at the end of November. If you want to get your senior portrait into the yearbook, and I hope you do, because it's a great memory, that those are due on the 30th. So please make sure you've made your reservations. Again, all that information can be found in our bulletin. All these items were in our bulletin, as a matter of fact. You can find that on our webpage, or all this information can be found in different parts on our webpage. So again, thank you for sticking through here to the end. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.